What's up, Mello?
What's up? How you doing?
Hey,
Hey,
Deani.
how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are y'all?
Doing well. Doing well.
Cool, cool.
How
So,
was your week? Or now, actually, you was a vendor, right, at the event
yeah,
today.
it
How
got
did it
it
go?
got rained out. It didn't.
Oh, word.
I mean, it didn't get rained out in terms of like it didn't happen, but it was so much. It rained so much it put a damper on things.
Uh, okay.
Yeah,
I
so
can imagine.
it wasn't fruitful in the ways that I had hoped it would be in terms of vending
Hmm.
because of the rain.
Yeah.
And even when Lawrence spoke, it was hardly anybody around. It was raining while he was talking, so he just kind of had to muscle through and but we got very little traffic. It was mostly vendors there, if that makes, more so than like just consumers.
Mm. Okay. Hey.
And a lot of the vendors was even getting up out of there. We all left early. Like most people left early, and so yeah. But other than that, my week was good.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. How
Cool.
about y'all? Where y'all traveling?
We're in Hot Springs, Arkansas right now,
Okay.
so for a family reunion.
Okay.
We'll be here until Tuesday. Yeah, we'll be here until Tuesday. So,
Nice.
yeah.
Hot Springs, Arkansas.
Going on with y'all, man?
What's good, Big Nature?
Man, oh man, trying to find me some juice so my phone don't die. Wife done just pulled down. Yeah, I'm trying to get situated. But yeah, man, I want to chime in.
Phone might have died just now.
Yep.
Yeah.
We can't hear you,
He's probably gone.
but we'll wait for you to come back.
My bad. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Did some Jota drop off?
I'm here.
Oh, come on, man. What's going on with my phone? It just connected to my Bluetooth. My apologies, y'all. Give me one second. Anyway, I guess I'll just check in like this, man. Yeah, this weekend was interesting. Just piggybacking off what Sunjata just said, man. The whole event, man. And I give a deeper dialogue about my takeaways later. But yeah, definitely an interesting weekend. That event was like uh it was interesting. But the takeaways were that it was some folks who heard the spiel and heard the presentation amidst the chaos, amidst the rain and all the winds and the gazebos flying over. It was some significant people who heard what we were doing and approached me after and really
Nice.
extended themselves and their systems and their community in support. And so we should have them joining the community here soon. And they're like real marquee movers in Atlanta. So it all in all, I was very upset with my delivery. I was upset because what I planned and practiced for didn't happen. It didn't manifest. But again, I was just looking for the universal alignment, and I was just like, I don't know what was happening or why it happened, but I was just waiting for it to kind of unfold, and it did soon after, and I was kind of like, okay, that's what it was. And
Nice.
even to the fact that where the folks like the main guy who came up, he was like, if the wind wasn't blowing, he was like, I think we would have been doing business as usual and entertaining customers coming over. He was like, I don't think we would have heard your message. And it was like maybe it was supposed to be that chaos that
Yeah.
created that scenario to where certain people were really hearing it. And I kind of
Mhm.
said that in the speech too, but it kind of overlaid masterfully,
Hmm.
man. And I'm just thankful for the opportunity. It was great, man. Great weekend.
Love it. Glad to hear that. I noticed you was still there when I left, so it's like, and when I came to talk to you, you were like, "Man, I'm about to leave," and then you end up staying. So that's obviously what happened.
Yeah, absolutely.
Love
Absolutely.
it.
Started getting more people come to the table, more people asking, and a lot of organizers who were like, hey, so you're the farm fresh guy. Y'all got and it was just like really tying it all together. So yeah, we stayed because my wife went in and bought a wrap. And I think Mello told me that Tassili's is like an hour wait on a regular day, and I ain't remember. And she went in to get the wrap, and that's why we stayed because we were there for another
Uh,
hour and a half waiting for the wrap. And so it
yeah.
was like universe sat us down for a minute, and that's kind of what came about. So it was
Uh,
dope.
uh,
Got it. Got it. Yeah, I had to get up out of there, man. That rain was like it foiled our little hopes, but it's all good. I'm glad all that worked out.
yeah.
Um, Let me think. What's up, Ashley? I see you joined us. What's going on?
Actually,
Hey y'all, I'll be on in a minute. I just got in the house.
Okay. Well, yeah. I heard from Kenesha said she was going to jump in on the Zoom. We'll see if she jumps in. Um, and otherwise we just keep it moving with anybody else want to check in or say anything about how they're feeling, how their week's going. Deanna, you want to speak about how you feeling, how your week going or your
I'm
weekend?
feeling good. I'm sorry that y'all had that rain, but also the relationships that you guys made, of course. But enjoying this weather. Just being around family, feeling a lot of love and just relaxation. We went on a hike this morning. I actually that was really refreshing. Um, when we went down, then came up and out. So that was a challenge, but it was a good challenge. It felt good after the fact,
Nice.
but feeling good, feeling
Nice.
good.
Okay, okay. So Ashley says she'll be back. So I guess we can jump in, y'all. I'll share what I was planning, what I had in mind for our time together today. So, the last time we were together, we adopted Cynthia's revisions for the culture statement. And the next thing that was on the agenda in terms of our collective culture and values statement was taking all those words that we came up with and the values part of the exercise that we did and making those into, concise values, whether it be one word or little, 2 to 3 word shared values. And I have some proposed here, but wanted to, take some time to put our heads together and see if we want to create some new ones beyond the ones that I have proposed here. But I'll share that. And then after that, um, we were on phase one and just kind of recapping, revisiting what we agreed to the last time we met about phase one, which is business model, economics, fundraising. And then, moving on to phase two of our planning, together and talking about what's going to be next and what steps need to be taken, who's going to take them in order to, come up with something for phase two, um, based on our launch phases. Any questions about that? Everybody rocking with that? Ready to jump in, or anyone have anything else they want to say or share before we jump in?
Let's jump on in.
All right, let's jump on in. So let's start with the values. I'm gonna drop the link to the doc in the chat. Hey, Kanisha, if y'all want, I can share my screen as well. Just let me know if you have a preference. But I just dropped the link to the doc in the chat, and I can get rid of. Let's see. Now I'll keep them both. I'm gonna move Cynthia's up top just so like the revisions, the latest version. All this 2.0. All right, y'all. So what you see here is the proposed shared value. So underneath what we did under 1.0 is the words that we came up together and how we grouped them together. We grouped the words together that we all came up with when we did the activity together. And then we grouped them together based on, which of our values were in alignment, and we put them into bullet points, and we had 6 bullet points, right? So then what you see up top is the words that were in those bullet points, and at the very top of the word is a proposed shared value. So for example, action with intention, reciprocity, power within collaboration, mutualism, service with sincerity, building real community, mutual aid, authenticity, family oriented, collective support, co-creation. If we had to come up with one word or a short phrase that captures those values, what would it be? So what you see I have here is collective care. So let's just talk through it, y'all. Let's see, does that feel good? Does it, does someone want to propose something else? And we'll see, we'll go through a little, consent-based decision-making process. Good enough for now, safe enough to try is the energy always, because we're always gonna have opportunities to revisit these things. Um, but yeah, who wants to speak on that first? So I'll tell y'all what I did. I basically just put all those things in a chat GPT and asked chat GPT to give me, some type of shared value that captures all those energies just to get us started. So, let's talk through it and see if we like those suggestions, or, if someone wants to propose something else to take place of that. So starting with that first one, is there anyone who does not consent to collective care being the shared value to capture the energy of all those values, of all of our values in that way? And if yes, please speak up.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. Collective care, all those things seem to be in alignment, and can kind of give us a broad total view of that, you know, all the intricacies within collective care, and that we can always tie it back to our mission and our movement. So yeah, I like it.
Anyone else? Does your silence mean consent?
I I'm speaking up. I do like it. And I like co-creation more.
Okay.
I like collective care, and co-creation, but I like that both um capture the essence of, collectively sustainable. I'll get include something with co, you know, the prefix co. I think that's good.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, co-creation for me speaks to the power with. And I think like in a shifting, it's important to remember that because like with collaboration so much, being collaborative can sometimes, especially a person who's collaborative in the sense in the ways that I am, can sometimes cause like a feeling um mm, that still feels like hierarchical, like subservient a little bit. So when I think about co-creation, it speaks to like the power with all the roles, like there being different roles involved that may not be a leadership role, but it's still power within that. And um, just the word creation alone speaks to so much to me, like the life force energy that I believe moving into this paradigm takes. So,
Well, keep in mind, all the words like co-creation that are already there will still be present. They'll still be, they'll always be present for us, and always, we'll be able to tap into all those words, and all those words are holding up what collective care is. So,
was this a
it's
resonating
still
thought,
there.
or
Hmm. Would you say, Kanisha?
I was just wondering? about the response.
I'm sorry, I'm not clear. I was talking and then you jumped in and said something. I was trying to understand what you were trying to interject.
I was just presenting my point of view, and
Hmm.
so you interjected with seem like opposition. And I thought we were like thinking together about it. And so like I don't know if that was like your comment, was it like an empathetic response or just like, yeah, are we dialoguing about it or are we is
Yeah, so what I wanted to do is just make sure you knew that it would be there. Um, so yeah, I just wanted to make sure you knew and like you and everyone else knew that where those words aren't going to go anywhere. So that's what I wanted to do. Just make sure that you were, as you were expressing yourself, you also realize that that word isn't going to go there and it's still a part of the energy that's holding up collective care. So I just wanted to make that point known as well. And yeah, but yeah, so thank you for sharing that. And anyone else want to jump in? I'll say like for me, I like collective care as well, as an all-encompassing, overarching, value. I like the care part and like what Mello said about the co being in there. Um, yeah, so I like collective care. It doesn't, I'm not it's within my range of tolerance and it feels like it's all encompassing. Um, and so far, yeah, does anyone else want to speak to it? So what I'm hearing so far, so we got Kanisha with proposing co-creation. Lawrence and Mello are both saying that they feel collective care is encompassing enough of everything, and I feel that way. So what I would say then at this point, since it feels like collective care has a lot of energy behind it, then I would come back to you, Kanisha, and ask, is it outside of your range of tolerance? Is collective care outside of your range of tolerance in any way?
no, so, collective care would definitely be like my second choice.
Okay. All right, so let's move to the next grouping, which is respect for nature, stewardship, eco-friendly, learning from nature, connection to nature, honoring all my relations. Again, these are all of our values that we put together, we grouped together because they were similar. And ChatGPT took all of those and came out with sacred ecology. So who wants to speak to that? How do you feel about sacred ecology? Um, Anyone want to propose something different? I'll just well yeah, I'll let y'all jump in. Somebody else jump in first.
I
Yeah.
think, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Mello. Go ahead.
I would just say ecology. I mean, I personally believe this is how I feel that all ecology is sacred. So, um, but at in the same breath, sacred do emphasize that, hey, like we're going to take collective care of it. Like it does emphasize it. So yeah, I would keep sacred. Now that I think about it, it's pretty good.
I agree with that. I like sacred ecology for sure.
Yeah, I really like sacred ecology. Um, even keeping sacred, definitely.
I feel the same. I was gonna ask how you came up with that, man. 'Cause when I read, it, I was like, damn, sacred ecology. Yeah, it definitely gives a twist to it, man. And it's just like it emphasizes it, like Mello says, man. Sacred ecology. No, it's not just ecology, but it's like something we hold near and dear, um, as we co-create, as we are stewards. Like it's sacred. Like our connection is sacred. So yeah, I like that. I like that a lot.
Cool, cool. Ecology don't jump out to me like immediately when I think of ecology. I had to look it up because for whatever reason, that's not in like my frame of reference about like the work that ties to the work that we do and the things we care about. But I like how you spoke to it, Mello, and obviously a lot of y'all already do have ecology within your. It feels ecology feels aligned, and how the definition of it feels aligned. So that's cool. I didn't know how that would go. Anyone else want to speak to this? So it seems like sacred ecology is a go. All right. The next grouping was authentic dialogue, proactive conflict resolution, collaborative decision making, mediation, consent based decision making, nonviolent communication, power within collaboration, liberatory communication. I like it. What say y'all?
I really like it.
Anyone feeling something different that you want to put out there for this grouping?
I'm still chewing on it right now, man. It's chewy for me right now, man. So I'm still chomping. Let me get like 30 more seconds.
All right.
What's
Like,
interesting is him. Oh, sorry, Mello. You can go
oh
ahead.
no, no, go ahead, go ahead. I was
As I
just
had already spoken. But I'll go ahead. What's interesting is like when Nature mentioned he's chewing on it, like even though I just said I really like it, I am still chewing on the fact that liberatory communication can be conflated with different meanings. Kind of
Yeah,
goes back to what we spoke about with um using our collective name as liberation. I don't remember, it was liberation something, and we shifted to power within collaboration because liberation can just hold so many different meanings that may not feel liberated to some people. Um, and it can take away from all these underlying meanings that liberatory communication means, like right here. So that's my only concern with it, even though I love it. Yeah.
yeah. I really think I don't know, I'm reading and I'm just like, man, I think that's authentic dialogue is more of a structured concept as far as communication goes within our community. I think that would be the more prominent factor to kind of tie in versus liberatory communication. I think authentic dialogue would be more in line for that overarching premise to me.
Yeah,
Hmm.
just like specifically name it, right? And so I hear you on that. Like authentic dialogue would kind of name and it embodies everything that's there, like mediation, collaborative decision making, power within collaboration, nonviolent communication, proactive conflict resolution, consent-based decision making, like all that. Authentic dialogue does hold all of that.
Yeah,
So I could definitely get behind that.
it definitely does. And okay, but to add another loop of a word that's not on here that just came up, is that okay? I was
Yeah.
thinking about compassionate communication, and I really like that too. And
Okay.
it fits for all the same reasons why Lawrence mentioned that authentic dialogue fits. And I think it also adds a layer to the care that our collective wants to embody.
All right. So there's a proposal for compassionate communication on the table
And then
and
authentic
authentic
dialogue is
dialogue.
safe enough to try for me.
Okay.
Yeah, compassionate communication to me, I don't know. It's kind of I think authenticity is more aligned with me, and I think in line with gathering the truth, a truth of communication versus compassionate. I just feel like compassion is another realm in and of itself, and I think authenticity is more in line with like the value, I think, to be
Hmm.
authentic is very much straightforward. Like I have an authentic conversation so we can really figure this out versus a compassionate conversation that entails emotions and how we say it. And I think the authentic dialogue fits a little bit better for me.
Ooh, that was a beautiful point that like changed my whole outline on that. And I would now take away my proposal for compassionate communication to say authentic dialogue for those reasons. Because compassion does like entail more emotion, and that could, that emotion can take away from, I think, the neutrality that authentic dialogue, I think, supports, with us being able to move forward through conflict when things are a little bit more neutral and less passionate. So yeah, I like that.
All right. Anyone else? All right. So it seems like authentic dialogue is anyone that seems to be in the lead. Anyone want to say anything about that? Or everyone feels good about that? Or like better yet, is there anyone who doesn't feel good about that? Or just want to speak to this grouping in any way?
Yeah, I would choose, or I would prefer authentic dialogue over liberatory communication as well. And it's something we've already been talking about and established inside of the collectively sustainable culture. So it makes sense for us to go ahead and slide that in as a value.
And I feel
So,
the liberatory, some people could take liberatory the wrong way and feel
mhm.
I need to be heard versus hearing we are hearing each other. That's just another perspective that I thought with that word being there instead of just authentic dialogue, which is, this is let's just have we're having a conversation. Let's hear each other
Right.
first. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Next up, we have the next grouping, individual freedom, liberation, agency, inclusivity, autonomy. This is always a tough one when you talk about balancing get things like agency and autonomy in a collective, right? So what captures that energy of, we are autonomous beings, we have agency, and yet, we're doing so within the collective, within the village. So the proposal here is liberated autonomy. That's the first proposal. How's that
Sanjay,
feel?
I'm sorry. Could you repeat the last thing you just said?
I was saying that the challenge is when you have group dynamics and collective dynamics, is balancing the autonomy and the agency and the liberation within the collective dynamic. So, what can capture that? Does liberated autonomy capture that?
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
I would like to propose agency, um, because agency, it implies like a responsibility. When I think of autonomy, or when we look up the definition, it said the right or condition of self-government. Um, we want our sovereignty, but at the same time, I think agency really emphasizes that we all have a part to play in keeping this mission going. So I think it enforces more of a responsibility. That's my proposal. But liberated autonomy? It's in my range of tolerance. I'm proposing agency.
Either
Hmm.
either for me, either one.
You said either for you, Deani?
Either one of those, because I get what he's saying too, but also it's in my range of tolerance as well.
Okay. Liberated autonomy. Is that like kind of the same thing? Liberated autonomy? Isn't
agency.
all autonomy like
Agency.
well, no, just what I'm saying there, just in general, like liberated autonomy in and of itself. Like, do we need both words, like liberated and autonomy? Isn't it like
I
one
don't
and the
think so.
same?
I don't think so. I don't think we should. It should probably just be liberation or autonomy.
Right. That's what I was saying. Like, I think they're kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
So I like liberation. That's always a good one for me because that's one of my personal core values is liberation. I think liberation captures all those things well. So liberation or agency,
Mhm.
I think liberation to me just, is powerful. It says a lot. And it's different than liberatory,
Mhm.
because what's that? And then you got what's that political group? That's what are they called? The not
Liberals,
liberals, but isn't there like a mid ground? Aren't they like liber or something?
libertarians.
Yeah, that's something about libertarians.
Yeah. But
But that's
libertarians, their viewpoint is of self-government, though. So yeah, it kind of go hand in hand.
but I was gonna say, like for me, liberation stands clear of all those things, is where I was going with it.
Mm.
I feel like it stands on its own. It says something a little different.
Hmm.
And I don't think for me it doesn't like get caught up in what those people are talking about. Like liberation is just, man, it says freedom, it says autonomy, it says agency. Uh it's like a bold statement, to me.
Yeah, and I think liberation encompasses like inclusivity. So I feel like it like naturally encompasses like these other words, like and it speaks to the point that Mello was speaking to in reference autonomy versus agency as well. Um,
Yeah, I agree. That's a good point, Kanisha, because like for me, liberation isn't just the way I live, but it's also like a reminder on how I need to engage with others. Like if I want
right.
to live liberated, or if I want to be, if I want to live in a way that, amplifies liberation, and if I desire liberation in my life, it's also I hold myself accountable to making sure that I'm moving through the world and relating with others in ways that they have the space to be liberated as well, have liberation in their lives as well. So that's another reason I like liberation.
Yep.
Is there anyone that would be opposed to liberation?
No, I think that fits.
All right. Anybody else want to say something about that grouping before we move forward with it? All right. The next one is collective well-being, mental and physical, brave space, collective holistic well-being, safer. And the initial proposed value to encompass all of those values is collective well-being.
What do y'all think about this? Um, uh-oh, I just missed it. It's the one with two different words. It's collective and I was just looking at it. Collective holistic well-being together. Y'all think that's too much? I don't like it.
Collective holistic well-being. What does that mean? Can you say what it means to you?
Yeah, to me, I think of whole body well-being. So balancing the mind, body, and spirit and soul. Um, I also think of like the ways that we are transitioning from like I know some of us like want to eat from the land and feed ourselves like as far as shifting the way we eat for medicine and the herbs, that we use as in place of medicine. Um, so when I think of holistic being, well-being, I think of like the inner healing from the work that's being done, like from the people in agriculture. So I feel like it encompasses that part, but also like the wellness, and also it encompasses the authentic dialogue, like the way that that's shifting our well-being as well.
Okay. Anyone else? I'm trying to think of like, is holistic well-being and collective well-being one and the same? Like, do we need both?
Yes.
And I guess
Mhm.
holistic well-being speaks to an individual and considering all the elements of like our individual needs. And once you bring collective in, that means that combined, that brings us together like the whole community and everyone in our collective. So collective holistic well-being. Like that's within my range of tolerance. I can get behind that. I give some space. I'll be quiet for a few moments to give some folks who are still chewing on it a chance to speak to what y'all thinking about it.
Yeah, I'm still chewing on it. Um, just for the fact, like I understand the concept, but it's like wordy to
Do
me. So
I do think it's wordy.
yeah, yeah. Like I'm all for collective holistic well-being, but it's like for other people to digest.
Hmm.
Um, you know what I mean? To keep it a little simple
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
to keep these values digestible, like for our kids to understand. So, holistic, like collective holistic well-being is probably a little bit too wordy for that.
Hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I could see like well-being, the holistic part being assumed
Mm-hmm.
or given space for anyone to define in that moment what they're talking about in terms of what feels aligned when it comes to well-being or misaligned when it comes to their well-being. So I think the holistic part can be assumed. I really do think it can be assumed.
Yeah, I feel that.
Yep, I agree. I agree. I think, yeah, we can skin it down a little bit, scale it down. I also see that the well-being construct doesn't have a lot of things kind of holding it up like we have in other. It has a lot of itself. It's like, defining a word with itself. We have collective well-being as an overarching principle, but then collective well-being is re-edified a couple more times. We only have safer and brave space as a difference of what that well-being looks like. I think we need to define a little bit more specifically what collective well-being is, if that makes sense.
I just put wellness there because I feel like we had wellness there before and we were playing around with like wellness versus well-being. Um, so Lawrence, you're saying you would like to see more. You're saying beyond what's underneath collect. You're speaking to what's underneath of it that what's holding it up.
Correct, correct, correct. I just feel like what's holding it up is a lot of itself, right? But it lacks definition. So collective well-being, I don't see what that looks like. It just, right under it to define it, it's just
It's
itself.
it's,
Again,
it's the
collective
word. Yeah, it
well-being.
just took
Yeah.
that word because Yeah, yeah. Collect the holism. Yeah, and it's there twice. Um, yeah, just and for whatever reason, these are just the words that came out. These are the values that came out, from each of us as individuals, and it's not as many as others. So for whatever reason, um, these came out when folks were listing their personal, values, etc. So I don't know what to do about that, but I hear you. But I think that this is just one of those situations where what did emerge, there was a theme, and that theme was
Yeah,
collective well-being, and we're saying, okay, well, let's go ahead and adopt that as the actual value.
yeah. And I think maybe the proposal would be to let's see, like, does it fit in somewhere else? So as I'm looking back over everything, I'm like, collective well-being is also in my head almost synonymous with collective
Collective
care.
care. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like we just have it twice. We could just take that whole thing out.
Man,
We already
no,
got it.
no, I feel
Yeah,
that. I feel that. I feel that. I
Yeah,
totally
I
feel that. We
feel
can literally put collective well-being in and of itself in the grouping of words under collective care, and it fits. And we can get this down
mhm.
to five. Is there anyone who
Oh
would be
yeah,
opposed to
yeah,
that?
yeah. Okay. Yeah, I like that. Because I was gonna advocate that I would still like to see something that speaks to mental and physical health. Um, but yeah, that's going under collective care.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
As I'm typing it, I'm still open to anybody want to make a last minute case, but that makes a lot of sense to me. Anyone have a last minute case against that? All right, here we
Did
are.
we decide to keep building real community? Because I thought we switched that.
Well, again, those are the things that can we talked about all of them, and that's just what somebody wrote. Somebody wrote that in their values when we did the exercise. So we just kept all of them and just grouped them together into what they went with, and I think we were thinking about where it went.
Okay.
But that was someone's individual value when it and with answering some of the prompts that we did a whole activity around this, and this was people's answers.
Mhm.
That's all you're seeing there's people's answers.
Yeah, I remember. Which is fun.
So
I thought we switched that to like authentic, building authentic community or something. Okay. I was just thank you.
all right, so the next grouping is joy, fun, pleasure, bliss, balance, resilience, and celebration. And the proposal is joyful resilience.
I think I do remember this one as well, man. Um, I don't know. I think I remember saying something about this. That joyful part just really rubbing me a little bit dry. Only because resilience, I think like grit. I think resilience is like when you really got to get down to business, come hell or high water, and sometimes it's not joyful. And I think I recall kind of teasing that into the lifestyle that we're living right now. That's kind of somewhat off the grid. Having to feed the animals, having to go outside when it's raining or cold, or very much non the conditions we don't want to be in, and not being so joyful, but being resilient and being able to still manage to keep everything in operating order. Um, I think that's uh, I think I like resilience. I don't like the joyful aspect coupling resilience, because it's not always joyful. Sometimes it's just you got to do it because it's necessary.
And then
Yeah.
I remember Kanisha came back with something, if I remember correctly, with a perspective around. I know that there was like, we want to include joy. A bunch of us felt like it was important to, um, I remember Kanisha speaking up for Joy. I think Deirdre spoke up about like why she valued the joy part. And I forget again, we've been forget exactly how it all came together. I remember you saying what you just said, Lawrence, but I felt like then Kanisha had like another perspective. And at the end of the day, all we did was group them together, right? Joyful resilience, that just came to the forefront. Like I got that from putting all those words underneath of it into ChatGPT, and ChatGPT spit out joyful resilience. I think what we were bouncing up and down was should joy and resilience be in the same group together? I think that's where we were at.
Yeah, I think that was it.
Yeah,
Because I believe joy could go like a lot of those things could go under liberation.
Hmm. So like joy, fun, pleasure, bliss, balance,
Mhm.
resilience, celebration. And you're saying pretty much all of them except for resilience can go under liberation.
Right. But I believe resilience is definitely going to be a critical construct to tie ourselves to because um yeah,
I
we're kind
agree.
of yeah,
I agree. And what I hear you saying is like when it comes to resilience, it can't always be like an expectation that it's going to be joyful. Sometimes resilience has to come from just sheer, like you said, grit and need, survival. It's not always going to be joyful. Anyone else want to
But
speak to that?
yeah. Um, so I'm hearing you still have resistance over the joyful part. I wanted to clarify, did you remember like how we got around to you like agreeing to the joyful part? Which when we I think Mello added a perspective
Mm.
about, and I also pointed to like joy meaning
Yeah.
and joy not being absent of like problems and pain, but that joy is the ability to
Nisha, we
did the
lost you.
audio cut out?
Okay. So,
Yeah, go ahead, Melo, until Kanisha comes back.
oh, okay. But yeah, I resonate with Kanisha. Like joy is really having a purpose, a meaning. So it goes along with resilience. It's just different ways of saying the same thing. A lot of people think joy means happiness. Joy don't necessarily means absent from pain. Just like what Kanisha was just saying, joy means having a deep meaning or having meaning and purpose rather. But to me, joy and resilience is the same thing. So we'll be joyful resilience. I think it should just be one or the other. But I would rather choose resilience because a lot of people think joy is just pure happiness. And resilience gives it more of an edge that no matter what goes, like we have to get through this. We got to have this ability to adapt. And joy don't grab that essence. So all in all, I will go with resilience. But I understand having joy as well.
I don't
Hmm.
know if y'all heard like my last point when I went out, but I was speaking to the fact that joy is resilience.
Hmm.
In my opinion, it's the same thing,
Yeah.
based on the definition of it. And I like joyful more than resilience because I believe resilience speaks to like a life of always having to navigate through pain and always having to navigate through hard work. And um, I believe that we can learn to transition and shift to a place where work being activated, being action oriented doesn't have to feel like this hard thing, um,
Okay.
or this painful thing, but it can feel joyful. And I believe that like with the shift that we're going to, that we have the power to like move through pain, through hard time, through hard work in a joyful spirit, which is resilience, and which it to me is more paradigm shifting than constantly being a people who had to fight, for our just to exist, So I rather be a people who thrives like and is joyful because we work together than to be a people that have to fight, because things are so hard. And resilience speaks to me more of like a fight. And it speaks to me to more of like survival versus joyful speaks to more, thriving together and working together and being action oriented together.
So this is with both listening to Kanisha and Mello, this is a challenging thing, right? Because we have the English language, which has words that have multiple meanings, and then we also have our interpretation. And as both of you are talking, I'm looking up the definition for joy and I'm seeing different definitions. I'm looking up the definition of resilience and I'm seeing different definitions. Um, so, for example, resilience. Resilience is the process and outcome of successfully adapting to difficult or challenging life experiences, especially through mental, emotional, and behavioral flexibility and adjustment to external and internal demands. That's the APA, American Psychological Association definition, which is that's like expanded. Then you got a basic one, the capacity to withstand or recover quickly from difficulties.
Yes. Can I jump in real quick?
Yeah, yeah.
So I was just gonna give some more roundness to it, right? Um, so for instance, one of our community members just had a son get shot and killed. Um, she's taking some time for herself right now, but it's Mama Celeste for those of you who don't know. She just had her son who was just at our program not too long ago at the bread making class. So this young man was only 29 years old. He just got shot and killed.
Dang.
Um, Resilience is like the necessary capacity. We all know that that's one thing that we can't leave here with, like, is our life. So at all times, we're going to be faced with some point or time where we have to be resilient. It
Mhm.
doesn't always have to be joyful. I don't know where she's going to find the lining of joy from
Mhm.
burying her son, but I understand that she's going to have to be resilient. She understands that she's going to have to be resilient and adaptive to the new lifestyle. I don't think joyful always encompasses resilience. Sometimes you just got to do it because that's the scenario you're in. That's the proximity of livelihood. And I think joyful is just really it doesn't always come with resilience, but I think resilience is always going to be prevalent, especially as we're traveling the waters of building a new system. So that's kind of where I'm pulling from, is really just the lifestyle we're living. Sometimes growing food is not fun, right? I'm the farmer for my family. I'm not always joyful at 90 degrees getting tore up by mosquitoes, but it's resilience that I'm pulling from more than joy. It's responsibility, it's adaptation. I see that being way more significant than being joyful all the time. I think we need to get out of that stance, even when we're moving into the next dimension of us being interconnected. It's not going to always be joyful. That's where authentic dialogue comes in, and these things where we can express what we feel, but it's not. It's like, just because you feel it doesn't mean everybody's going to concede to it, and it's just like that. Joyful is interpretive, and yeah, I think it can stand alone, but I think being a side resilience is just like, yeah, I don't
Yeah.
resonate with it.
Mm-hmm. I
That's where
love.
my proposal is coming. I was going to go based on hearing everything that everyone has said, is just separating them, because I understand the need to bring joy into our purview and keeping it present as a shared value. And I also understand the need to keep resilience. I do see them as separate as well. And I think it's important that we're able to see a clear path into each. And based on what it means to you, Kanisha, what it means to you, Mello, how y'all kind of see them one and the same, but Lawrence is articulating how he doesn't see them as one and the same. My proposal would be so that everyone can see themselves in these values, which is the point of this, is that we separate them. And then we get
Hmm.
back to having six values, one being joy or joyfulness, and another one being resilience. Because I'm like Lawrence, I'll say for myself that I too see resilience as separate because we are going to face difficult times, and I don't. Some of us maybe have the capacity to do so with joy at different stages or throughout the whole thing. And I think there's other times where resilience is necessary. Even when I'm not having joy in something, I'm still being resilient. I'm still getting it done. I'm still showing up for y'all and my community and my family.
Hmm.
Even if there's joy, no, there's no joy present, I still can show up in difficult times because of resilience. And I think that's something that's, I'm open to. I see how they're
Yeah.
different, how they're different, not together is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I do too. And I love everything that you spoke to, Lawrence, and in terms of in the real hardcore example of like some real like deep pain or whatnot. Um, and what stuck out to me when you mentioned that was the word adaptable. Like, so and adaptable spoke out to me like a little bit more than resilience.
Adaptable. So, okay, with that in mind, do you all think that resilience can be a shared value? Because it says, if I'm looking at the capacity to withstand or to recover quickly from difficulties, just looking at that definition of resilience, it
That was
feels
hard
like,
for me.
and also thinking about how we're going to use these shared values in terms of something that's going to anchor us and give us common language and ways to hold each other accountable to ourselves and who we say we want to be for one another. Can I truly hold you, Lawrence, accountable for being resilient? Or is that more of a everyone has their own journey with resilience and that's like a more personal, like, can I really say, you know what, Lawrence, when you did XYZ, it felt misaligned with resilience. I don't think we can. I don't think
Mhm.
that fits.
Can I add to that, Sanjana?
Yeah,
That my problem, like that was coming up for me with that, is that resilience has been historically used to be like an ableist word because everybody can't recover at the same pace.
right.
And it's been, used to demean and degrade people who may not recover and activate as fast as someone else. You know?
I don't think resilience is a measurement tool, though. I think it's a
I don't
state of
either.
mind. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
that's what
agree.
I'm looking at when I see resilience or I hear resilience. Nature's resilient, the rose that grows through the crack. We know that's not supposed to be there, but it's still a sight to see because it's amazing because of its resiliency. We adore that. We praise it. And I think we're doing the same thing right now. This is an act of resilience. Us creating our own systems, shifting the paradigm is an act of resilience. We won't die. We won't conform to this system. We won't let it just take us and sweep us away. We're resilient. We're steadfast. I think that is encompassing of our movement. That's encompassing of us building this village that's going to be off grid. That's resilient enough to keep itself up. And I hear what you're saying too, Sunjata, with like trying to tie something, but I think adaptive. I think again we have to look at our overarching construct and to kind of understand where we're going and build the framework to assist people as a bridge. And I think just to really tie people back into where yes, you're going to have to be resilient. You're going to when I hear resiliency, I hear problem solving, I hear critical thinking, I hear adaptive. Right. So I think those are principles that we need to be tied to because it's not going to be as simple as people, who are dreaming about this reality. We're the ones who are walking towards it and walking in it right now. And we're saying like, well, I'm saying that from my perspective, resilience is key. And I think it's fundamental enough to really have as a standard shared value.
So Kanisha was saying adaptable, and you said adaptive. I like adaptable better because of what Kanisha was just saying and what I said previously. Adaptable means able to adjust to new conditions. And I feel like that's what you were saying, Lawrence, is like that's going to be necessary. I think I think something like being adaptable is something that's required from, it's going to be required and is required. But it takes it out of the ableist space, how Kenesha brought that up. Because like one of the words here with the resilience definition is toughness. And it's like, can I really, again, when we're having, a conversation, like that's relative. Toughness is relative, you know, uh, recover quickly, the capacity to withstand or recover quickly from difficulties, in terms of resilience. It's like we all have it to a degree. We all have toughness to a degree. Um, so then like with these words where, it's so nuanced, it's like, well, what are we using it for? That's why I went there. And when I think about, the activity and the way that I facilitate for um, proactive conflict resolution, authentic dialogue, we use these shared values as a way to resolve conflict quickly or make decisions together quickly. And we talk about being aligned or misaligned. So it's like, could I see anyone here saying, again, Sunjata, when you did XYZ, it felt misaligned with our value of resilience. That wouldn't feel like I would be like, hold on, but to me, I was being resilient. um, I'm thinking out loud while I'm saying this, and just so y'all know. And I'm hoping that Lan and you all can pick up on that as well, maybe, speak to it because and then it sucks also that Kenesha fell off. Um, hmm. Resilience feels like a given. It's something that we all are to varying degrees. Adaptable as a shared value is saying we're all agreeing to be adaptable. That feels like something that that could easier be named easier. Like, you know what, Sunjata, the way you're holding on to this particular thing it doesn't feel like you're being adaptable in this moment. That feels like
I
more
can kind of see that.
relevant conversation that I would be like wanting to be more like aware and I'm like, you know what, maybe I need to grow in my adaptability, or maybe I can see what you're saying. Maybe I can be more adaptable here. But when it comes to resilience, if you're like, you're not being resilient, I'm like, hold on, I am doing the best I can. I'm struggling. This is difficult. All right, let me shut up. I feel like I said enough there.
No,
Hopefully.
no, no. I like that. I like that. I like
Okay.
adaptability. I like that. I see what you're saying as far as a flow of how we're going to tie somebody to our principles and how to
Hmm.
bring it up in conversation. I think that's really important to be able to tie it in a real way. And I think adaptable is less confronting or conflicting than resilience because yeah, it could mean something different or you have to do it a certain way. But adaptive is just like, hey, this is the system that we're in, and we have to move within the system, and we have to adapt. And
Right.
that can be a certain benchmark for sure.
Can you text me the link on this phone?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. My
I
bad.
agree as well, with Dr. Lawrence. It just ain't resilience, it's less confronting. Um, Resilience is definitely a word I personally value. I think to others joining, considering them, I think adaptable is more appropriate than it's confronting.
Okay. So it feels like we feel good about adaptable. So we're well, Kanisha's gonna be calling in adapt, adaptable. Uh, that feels relevant big time. Um, what about joy, joyful, joy, etc.? Does that have a place at this let's see. All right, Kenesha, you're back with us.
Yeah.
So we
Because
came
what was
to
Mhm.
we came to adaptable instead of resilience, Kenesha. So we took everything you said in consideration as well and came to adaptable.
Okay. I really hate I missed what Lauren's point was because that's when I dropped on resilience. But I'll
We came back to he Lawrence said some things and I said some things that I felt like were in consideration of what you were saying. And that made
Mhm.
sense to me as well. And how, resilience can be one of those things that can fall and get into like the gray area of being ableist, whereas adaptable feels like it'd be a more generative, accountability point.
Mhm.
Um, and then the last thing is just joy, y'all. Do we joy, fun, pleasure, bliss, celebration? Um, I was hearing in our meeting like that everyone felt like, or a lot of folks felt like it's important to presence those things because, that, we're humans and that we all have that side of us and it's okay. We got to get things done, but we still need to have some fun and et cetera, celebrate things and et cetera. So does joyfulness feel good there to encompass joy, fun, pleasure, bliss, celebration?
Yeah, I have to rock with joy.
Say that
Joyful.
again.
You said the joyful
Joyfulness.
fit
Or do we
joyfulness.
just need
Yeah,
joy?
I have to rock with it.
Okay.
Like
I'll probably just say grace. Oh God, yeah.
Say it again, Mela.
No, I was saying I'll rock with joy, just having joy. But Kanisha, you go ahead.
hmm. Okay. Yeah, I like to just, the idea of just going with joy that would be safe enough to try. But when I think about like Lawrence's points, um, and the emphasis on action, I like creative joy because there can still be joy in that, like making and baking, and for some people.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessary because I like joy, because that we can then add it to anything. We can add it to creativity. We can add it to, the work. Like, joy in itself, is all encompassing to me. And we have co-creation under collective care.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it can be added to, everything that's up above. We can add joy to, in some of those things somewhere. Some of us can find joy and be able to tack it on to a lot of the other values in some way. So I feel like that's why I personally would propose joy by itself, and then we can do with it what we want.
Mm-hmm. That's safe for me.
Anybody else want to speak to that, or y'all feel like we good, we got it? These all feel good enough for now, safe enough to try, and we can move on.
Yep, I feel good.
All right, going.
Good too.
All right. Anybody else want to say something before we move on? Creating a little more space just in case somebody else want to get something in.
We're gonna have we're gonna have to jump off the call, so we'll have to get updated.
All right. All
So
right,
just let
hello,
us know we got to
Ardiani.
log off. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Appreciate
Y'all.
y'all.
Yeah, see y'all.
Yeah.
All right, check y'all later.
All right, then. So let's rock with Stewart Groups phases, dropping that link in the chat. Appreciate everybody's time and energy and efforts on this. This is co-creation in action, y'all. This we co-creating together. We just co-created these last few sessions. We've been doing a little co-creation each time. These are the things that allow us to be in it. We're doing it. We are already doing the things that we're talking about we're doing when we're physically and living in community together. We've already been practicing those things of co-creating, of consent-based decision making, of loose forms of some dialogue, et cetera, have been present throughout this whole process. So I just wanted to name that and express gratitude for y'all's participation and trust in me facilitating these processes. So, all right. So I just dropped the link in the chat to the Steward groups. Let me see, Steward group phases. I'm gonna call this Doc Steward group phases. And phase number one, again, was business model economics and fundraising. And I put a paragraph here that spoke to what we decided in the last meeting, which is we agreed that collectively sustainable income generating model that has already been in place for stewards, lighthouses, and stewardship centers will continue. We also agreed that the divestment approach for getting the capital we need to fund and sustain the village was good enough for now and safe enough to try. We will work together to create a clear and compelling proposal and slide deck to present to potential village members and divestors until we have the resources we need. So that's where we left off after the last meeting. um, and that was phase one in terms of like what was making that decision. The next thing was phase two was framework, legal, blueprint, governance, onboarding, conflict resolution. The Stewart Group, Deirdre, Mello, Lawrence, Sunjata, Karen, Cynthia, Diani. And this is where we were talking about things like the legal framework around should we consider a nonprofit or a for-profit slash nonprofit hybrid? Should we be a B Corp? Should we consider being a cooperative? These were some of the initial questions that came up. And I guess this is a good time to see if there's any other questions that fall within this domain, share any perspectives that you feel like we should be aware of as a steward group as we move forward within this domain, ask any questions of each other in this time before we, kind of go off and bring some proposals back like we did last time.
Yeah, I'm ready to get to it. 'Cause I've been thinking about this, not a lot, but I've been thinking about it lately. And in the spectrum of literally walking away from the system and all the things we're doing. And I was just really thinking about it this morning, late last night. I was just like, man, why would we wrap our movement, our organizing factors into the system that we're saying we're walking away from? Like those corps, those nonprofits. I'm just like, I feel better. I feel stronger. I feel more impactful as a grassroots movement. Just folks who getting together in their autonomy and formulating something that's better than what we're saying we're going to walk away from. And I think we don't need to validate it through the system. I think it's stronger as a grassroots. So I'm putting that
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah. I don't even have to say anything. He just said it all. I am 10 toes down on that sentiment. I prefer grassroots.
So let me say, I'm 10 toes down on that too. That's my energy as well. However, I feel like there's been times where I feel like there's been times where I've been wanting to go so far away from what's currently established that I've been reeled back in. I'll say that. I've been reeled back in. So here's one thing I'm gonna put out there as a consideration. And there's always a solution, right? So with that being said, when it comes to raising money, especially when you're talking about, some of these divestors, a lot of them are going to want, some of them are going to be like, yo, we down, we don't care, we don't need a return, we don't need a tax write-off. But for those who do want a tax write-off, is it just as simple as aligning ourselves with an aligned fiscal sponsor? I've done that in the past. Um,
Hmm.
so that we can continue to be like off grid, because that's basically what we're saying. We want to even be off grid as a or we just want to be grassroots. We want to be collectively sustainable. We don't need to be on grid in any way, but unfortunately, we do need to be on grid in some ways because we need a bank account, right? Or we totally trust in one of our organizations because we have nonprofits already, right? I got Grow Dialogue Communities, which can be like a middle conduit, already has a bank account, already has a for-profit, I mean, a nonprofit 501(c)(3). Do we want to do that or use another established, another organization that has those things, and then they give us the money for when we need money for whatever we're going to need money for as we're transitioning off, et cetera. So there's going to be some ways we need to be, one foot in continually as well.
Hmm.
So what do y'all say to that?
Um, oh, you can go ahead, Lawrence. Well, I just want to say this. I want to speak to the point you made about what if there's divestors who need us or want us to do this in order for them to divest. And I would say that I wouldn't want to receive anything from divestors who feel they have any kind of power or control over what we have going on. Um, so I would want to be completely separated from a divestor who have those type of ideas. Like in order for them to divest, and we must, move this particular way. Um, And in terms of like divesting, I mean, using a nonprofit, like a middleman type nonprofit like yours, or if Lawrence have one, that's something I would feel comfortable and safe enough to try.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Sunjata, you just literally hit it right on the head. I think we just got to be one foot in, one foot out, and I think using your nonprofit status to kind of serve as that fiscal element would be probably more advantageous. Or if we needed to link to one that had more reach or whatever, as long as they were in line and in step with what we're doing and we trusted them, then cool. But I think the literal divestment is that in totality. It's like, you know, we're saying the divestment is that we ain't playing the game no more. We're washing the money. It's the gambling spot. We're washing the money out. We can't wash the money and still give taxes or tax breaks. It's like we just leaving the whole system. So I think that one foot in, one foot out concept works. And if we could use the nonprofit that you have, that would be a way that we can still kind of get ourselves in the clear while still having access to resources.
Okay. Okay. I'm totally down with that. Let me check one thing of clarity because I hear Kanisha, one thing you said that I totally agree. Like, no one's going to have any say over what we do. Are you also saying, because I'm in agreement with that, but are you also saying that you have an issue with if they said, you know what, either A, we're just giving the money directly to y'all. We don't care about tax write-offs or anything. Or B, someone saying we'll give the money to grow dialogue communities. And can we just get like, one of those statements? They don't even got to ask. If they do it, they could talk to their accountant about that. Really, we don't even got to get involved in that. Now I think about it.
Yeah, yeah,
It's like that's on them. If they want to give it to us directly, whatever that means or looks like, or if they want to give it to grow dialogue communities, I don't think we have to get in the weeds of if they write it off or not. Does that make sense to y'all? Like we don't have to get in the weeds of all that. That's on them, right?
no, right.
Okay. Because they have that option. Um, all right. So I guess what I feel like we're saying, and if anyone feels differently that watches the recording, I think for those of us who are present, we're saying that collectively sustainable village is a grassroots movement, period, or a grassroots collective, period. Let's say, and then I'll just add fiscally sponsored by Grow Dialogue Communities. Uh, um, Fiscally sponsored by Grow Dialogue Communities when necessary. Let's see, free when necessary. Boom. All right. So that's like, okay. So that answers the question on like legal framework, right? And in terms of like onboarding, I know Cynthia already did some work on that. In terms of conflict resolution, I can propose my framework for that. In terms of the onboarding, I guess I'll get with Cynthia on that. Because I liked One World Global's process. They had a very detailed onboarding process. And I would like for us to put our heads together. I guess, when we bring everyone's proposals and we'll chop it up in the next meeting. I guess that's where we'll go with that. So the next thing we got onboarding, we got conflict resolution. Blueprint. I forget what blueprint was. I don't know what we meant by that. Governance. I know Mello brought some frameworks for governance on decision making. He brought he proposed something in the group. So I guess we can go one by one on these things and in the subsequent meetings to hear what folks got to say, ask questions, and revise until we got something that we all feel good about. Um, so maybe start with onboarding in the next meeting. How's that feel to y'all?
Sounds about right.
Sounds good. Yeah. I asked chat. That sounds so funny to me because I've been so resistant to that. But chat has helped me create like a process for onboarding, and I've made some changes to it. Well, my phone died, so I can't share it. Um, and then I have been looking at some different communities with different onboarding processes that they have,
Okay.
and remembering and thinking back. And I was looking at some emails for when I went to that community and just remembering like his style or whatnot. So I wanted to share that as a part of the onboarding process to see if anybody, how people felt about using some of the things that, like the email processes that he has as well, like for our onboarding process.
And keep in mind, y'all, we had an onboarding process for CGE.
Yep.
Yeah, and that was something that chat shared, like some of the onboarding processes that we had in CGE were exactly um, what I saw too. So yeah,
Mhm. Yeah, I was just gonna
even
chime in with the same. I think our CGE framework is still very much parallel. The mission never changed. We just had to reassess how we approached it. But I think that was an honest, thought through onboarding process, even where they had mandatory meetings similar to
hmm
collectively sustainable. You got to be at an authentic. So it's like the same framework. It's expounded on in the village concept. So it's like, okay, you came through collectively sustainable and went through this onboarding process. Now to get to this village, it's more of an intentional process. It takes a little longer. You got to go to more meetings. You got to show up more. And I think we really do have the bones of it already. I think we've already drafted it. I think we can
hmm
probably have back to the table, back to the forefront.
yeah.
Yeah. And I think
Along with what y'all just mentioned, the onboarding process with like vetting the how many meetings you come up to. The other thing that I saw when I asked chat is the needs. Like I think is I would really love us to get back to that, like having that sharing circle. I know I keep mentioning this, but I think that would be a good part of the onboarding process too, is to know what people in the community and for collectively sustainable. Like we have something to share the skills that we have, but I think it's going to be important to know the needs that the community has.
Would that be a part of the onboarding though?
I think so. I think so. Like, I think for people to know that they're coming into a community where their needs are cared for. And I think, I think that's a big, like resistance to people being able to maintain that activation status that we want, and to be adaptable, like because people fucking surviving and struggling, So how can I organize when I'm fucking surviving, and struggling? And there's needs that I, have. And so like I think it'd be vital for us to get in, like in the beginning, like to get into like how can we support one another's needs? Like how can the mutual aid support?
So maybe during onboarding, maybe that's like a moving aspect or a building aspect of the community.
Hmm.
Like you like I don't know if it'll be cohorts. I don't really have it visualized when the onboarding process happens, but if
Hmm.
it was like used as a cohort now, hey, all these 15 people within this cohort want to join this village, y'all are gonna in like almost like how Sunjata creates the framework of the mission statements or the vision statements or the like they walk through the process and then say what they need, and amongst each other they formulate that support system. Because the only pushback I have, and not really pushback, is we have been really not surrounded by it, but we deal with it a lot. A lot of people come in to the community with the same constructs of capitalism, and they come in to extract. So they come in asking for more than they're willing to give, and we just know that's literally the recipe for something that being non-sustainable. I would
Right.
rather pour into people who have passed or shown that much interest in the onboarding process and went through it, and then say, okay, hey, what do you need? Because how can we serve you? Because now we understand we can cast our seeds on fertile soil. We know we're not expending our energy on somebody who's going to
Hmm.
take it and not pour it back in. So I think
Hmm.
the point of onboarding is to really separate the people who have the time and the capacity and the sincerity to really go
Hmm.
through the process to then reap the benefits of the community.
Hmm. Yeah. And with what both of y'all said, what came up for me is the reminder that we also need to be intentional about saying, in order for this community to get off the ground, we need people that are gifted in these certain skill sets. We need to be really intentional about the skill sets that we're inviting in that initial wave of folks. So when
Absolutely.
Kenesha was talking about needs, that's what I thought about. I'm like, hold on, what does the village need?
Right.
What skill
Yeah.
sets does the village need first and foremost that complement one another, so we can complement one another with our skill sets to have something that can, build a solid foundation. And I remember, I think
Yeah.
at some point you had ironed that out a little bit, or maybe that's like the blueprint part, maybe we were talking about with blueprint up
It
there.
Yeah, it might be. It could be something like that. I think that might have been it. Like, yeah, the personnel
I'm gonna put
blueprint.
personnel.
Excuse me.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna put
personnel
personnel.
blueprint.
So
Mm. So,
that's
Jada, I love what you're saying about like what does the village needs. And I want to note like that's not separate from what I'm saying. Like,
mhm.
so I think what I am saying when I think about needs is like for me being a person who really want to go hardcore with what the village needs. Um, One, we need more people to do that, and people being in the village caring for our needs. Like creating the village, I think, is the solution to the lack of, you know, people's needs being met. And so, yeah, that's why I'd say That what I'm saying, like in terms of like our needs is not separate from the comment of like, what does the village need?
Hmm. So
Hmm.
how about we start there then? Having that conversation at our next meeting.
Hmm.
And Lawrence, if you have anything from that you did with 87 acres when you were thinking about that, could you bring it or bring any thought process around that and we chop that up in the next meeting to think about
Yeah,
like those
absolutely.
foundational personnel slash needs?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hmm.
So then we'll push onboarding back till we have a better understanding of those underlying needs first then. Okay. And again, for anyone who wants to do some other um, pre-research on any of this, check out one community global, how they're working through these type of things. That's a good resource as well. Um, yeah, or again, we can use the what I like to call the calculator, the words calculator, Chat GPT, and see what has already been accumulated and out there in terms of the collective intelligence that it can streamline it for us and like, what type of personnel to cover what type of needs would be good, to get an eco community off the ground
Hmm.
based on our values and our culture. And we might get, that'd give us a good runway as well. So we got options.
Yeah. And that everything you just mentioned is a lot. Well, a lot of what you just mentioned is in the document that Ashley pulled up too.
Okay.
Did y'all get to talk about that on the last call? My call dropped right before we went into the wedding. The document that Ashley dropped.
No, we didn't get a chance to dice that up. That is
Okay.
one of those things I think we might need to touch back on too. Because I think, yeah,
Yeah.
it coincides with where we are right now and where we're going. So that might be
Hmm.
enough to bring as a resource.
Okay. So yeah, let's bring that to the next meeting too then.
All
So I think it's
right.
a good place to stop for the day. How y'all feel?
Yep. Feels good to
Yeah.
me.
Hmm.
All right then. So I'll drop everything in reminders in the heartbeat as usual, y'all, and be chopping it up with y'all soon.
All right.
All right, appreciate y'all.
All right,
Love
y'all. Love
you.
y'all. Peace.
Bye.
Love you too. All right, bye.